Welcome back, everyone. It's just another day in the life as a military wife. And I got thinking, just because it's graduation season, I've got friends' kids and my cousins who've been graduating high school. And I was thinking about lag years, gap years. I'm not sure if you've all heard about those before, but it's basically when kids after high school take some time off to kind of figure out what they want to do with their life, maybe earn some money for college or do service or whatnot. Anyway, I realized I used to think this was kind of, for rich people or Europeans. And then I realized, wait, I took a lag year. And I had never even realized that before. So I want to talk to you all about my lag year. I am your host, Sam Wolf, and as always, you are listening to Life of a Military Wife. Okay, so in regards to a gap year or a lag year, typically what the person does is it is for beneficial personal growth, self-discovery, and gaining valuable life experiences. They'll typically take a break from their long-term goals after completing high school to and entering the workforce or furthering their education to explore different interests, gain experiences, travel, volunteer, or save money. But anyway, there's lots of different reasons why people do lag or gap years. They are really popular in Europe. And I always, when I would hear about them, think of the Grand Tour, the things that wealthy individuals in Europe would do when they were like young, just starting off and but still single, back in like the late 1800s, like Victorian times. And I always just kind of thought that was a little much. And then I actually stopped to think about it and I realized I did something like that, but it was framed completely differently in my head. And so I never looked at it that way. And so you're thinking, how on earth did you, Sam, manage to take a gap year and not realize it? Well, first of all, it wasn't just a year, it was a year and a half. And it was actually in the middle of college. I kind of needed to reevaluate my life. And so my mission, as I've mentioned, I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and many people will be familiar with the fact that our church sends out proselyting missionaries all over the world, but we also send out service missionaries, and people don't realize that. But basically, what a mission is it's an opportunity and this is, most people think it's just the young people, but there's lots of different type of missions, and I'll talk about that. But it's an opportunity for, in my case, it was a young person, college age-ish, to take a break and to share their beliefs about Jesus Christ, to serve, to go to another country, learn about another culture, and learn another language in a lot of cases. Now, that's not all cases. There are lots of proselyting missions inside the United States. There's a lot of proselyting missions that are in other countries but are English speaking. I was really blessed. My mission, the opportunity I was given, was as a Spanish speaking missionary, but stateside in the United States, working with immigrant populations in the United States. And I loved it. It was on the East Coast, it was in Jersey, and I just gained so much from that experience. And there's a lot of different missions. So, because of that, there are typically, and this is not, perfect numbers because it fluctuates up and down, but on average, there are 53,000 full-time proselyting missionaries from my church any given moment. Um, they're between ages of 18 and 25, typically. Um, they serve in 411 different missions contained in 176 different countries, and they are prepared to go for where they're going, at 10 different mission training centers. And the mission training center I went to was in Salt Lake City, Utah. I served my mission back in 2007. Again, I took a break from college. I had done a couple years of college at a junior college, and I had been engaged and thought my life was going in one direction. And then my engagement was called off. My relationship with that individual, just my ex-fiance, it just fell apart. He and I went in completely different directions, and I was kind of left reeling, trying to come up with a new perspective on what my life was going to be. Because when you go to get married, or at least this is my opinion about marriage, you are trying to integrate your life with someone else. And I had spent all of this time and effort, and it had been just weeks before the wedding when everything fell apart. Um, I trying to integrate my life with this other individual, and it didn't work out. And I just felt like my whole life had fallen apart and I didn't know what to do next. And I was at a junior college. I knew I wanted to eventually get into a university. I had joked around with my mother when I graduated high school that if I didn't get into the university I wanted, I was going to leave and join the Peace Corps. And I probably would have never done that, but that was kind of like my version of it. I just need to reset and get away and figure out who I am. And there was a lot of stuff going on in my life and my family and just in my world at that time. And so the opportunity to kind of let it all go, just set college aside, set work aside, set because when you are a proselyting missionary, relationships are not a thing. You're expected to stay single for the duration of your mission. When you're a young proselyting mission or even a young service missionary, you're supposed to just set dating and relationships and all that aside. And considering I just had a very significant relationship blow up in my face, I was more than willing to give all of that ness a break in my world and just reassess and kind of find myself. And that's part of why I served, but I also served because of my personal religious beliefs and wanting to help people who were looking for that. I've always been a firm believer that um, I hate high pressure sales pitches. I was a cashier in high school for an organization that changed management, and the new management was huge on upsell and high pressure sales, and it's just not me. And I ended up walking away, separating from that company because I'm not that kind of person. Um, I've like used products from multi-level marketing companies, but I've never pushed sales for those companies. I've never tried to pull other people in because I just hate that. My philosophy in life is if you want something and you know that I'm affiliated with that thing, then you'll ask me and I will share it with you. And I'm super enthusiastic and I will help hook you up, but I am not going to force it down anyone's throat. And that's how I feel about religion. I want to share this wonderful thing that has made my life better. And I am very open about how it's made my life better, but I'm not about to shove it down anyone's throat. If you're not interested, you're not interested. That's fine. And, but serving a proselyting mission was just something that felt right at that time for me. And I learned a lot from it. And as I've stopped and thought about it more and more, I realized that there are skills and things I learned on that have helped me now as a military spouse. And I'm not the only military spouse I know who has had this kind of experience. And so I reached out to some other military spouses and I'll share their input a little bit later on. But I kind of want to talk a little bit more about what these missions are. And I mentioned service missions. So not everyone is physically up to or is just a proselyting mission isn't the perfect fit for everyone. And so there's other things that you can do with my church that they help facilitate, and these are called service missions. And this is helping people with their family history. This is working at food banks, in the Global Service Center, helping like special needs kids. That one service missionary that I was looking at their experience. They helped at a school for special needs individuals, helping with food kitchens for the homeless, teaching English to refugees. There's lots of different organizations that my church has paired with that do humanitarian work all over the world, and these service missionaries help out with that. But even if you end up being a proselyting missionary, you're still expected to do service because that's what Christ did. He served. And so on my mission, I had the opportunity to serve free. Like, this is all free. I'm not getting paid. This whole lag year, you pay to do. Um, and I'll explain that in a little bit. But this is completely volunteer. This is completely pro bono. You don't get a cent for any of this, but you do it as a growth experience. And so I helped out in a hospice, a hospital. I helped out with an organization that collected donations of clothing for developing nations. And I helped sort through those donations to find ones that were good quality to send to the developing nations. I helped translate multiple different times. I taught English as a second language. So lots of different experiences. And learning how to translate was huge. It was a really fascinating and wonderful experience for me. It really pushes your language acquisition skills to a whole new level. And I was grateful for that. It also exposed me to a larger set of vocabulary than just teaching religion would have done. Um, Another thing I really loved doing with families that I got to know, and I meant to, and I just ran out of time today. I meant to sit down and like actually tick through how many different Latin American or Spanish speaking countries, or just countries in general, that I worked with refugees and immigrants from these countries. And I just did not have time, but there was quite a few. But one of the things I really enjoyed was, the kind of cultural exchange that I got to do. My family is Italian, as I've talked about millions of times. And so I'd mention these to these families, and they would get really excited to be like, "Oh, how do you make pizza? How do you make lasagna? How do you make this?" I'm like, "Okay, I'll teach you how to cook my family's food. You teach me how to cook your family's food." And to this day, I have tons of recipes from those wonderful families that I got to love and know and work with. And that's not even, like, some of the best parts. That's just something like, there's just so many good things I learned, and it was not easy. And that was, I think, another thing I was really grateful for is I learned that I could do hard things. I learned that I could be independent, that I could function without my big Italian family around all the time, because I'd grown up with all my aunts and uncles and cousins, my mom and my siblings, and just this huge support system and just tons of feedback. Like, I always had people to like talk to about issues or whatever, and to really just have to be kind of separated from that for a while, because while I was serving the mission, and it's since changed, um just to help you focus, and because cost of communication across distance was kind of pricey, you were only able to call home twice a year. And you were only and you emailed home once a week, um, and wrote letters and stuff like that. But it was actually a really wonderful experience because it helped me gain a level of confidence in my ability to take care of myself, and to kind of figure out who I was, um, independent of my amazing but very like just all present family. And that has been just invaluable as a military spouse, because I don't have that huge Italian family around me anymore. A lot of my family and my siblings have ended up in different states, all across the country, due to work and all of that sort of stuff. And so being able to build the skills of meeting new people and building a support system and working with strangers and starting over. It was wonderful. It was fantastic. And so the other thing is you don't stay in the same area for your whole mission. If you're doing a proselyting mission, service missions are different, but proselyting missions, they tend to move you around a bit. And so it was every 3 to 6 months or so, you'd go to a different area. So I ended up being in several different parts of New Jersey, and it was really wonderful to see meet all those different types of people. I met people from Nicaragua, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, the Middle East, Eastern Europe. Um, I met people from Costa Rica, Venezuela, Paraguay, Uruguay, um, Chile, Argentina, Brazil, Guatemala. I think I may have already said Guatemala, just tons of different countries. And Cuba and Venice. Yeah, I already said Venezuela, I think. Mexico, lots of different parts of Mexico. And I had grown up in the Southwest. I was familiar with Hispanic Mexican culture, but just to realize there was so much more depth and variety. Peru, oh my gosh, I forgot Peru. I knew so many great people from Peru and Ecuador. But anyway, just the depth and variety in all of these different cultures. They might all be Latin American countries, but the vocabulary is different and the food is different. The running joke was that we never knew what we were going to eat when we were invited over by one of these families, because a torta in Mexico is a sandwich, but it's a cake in other places. And just like things just take all different names. And we found out that galleta was slang in Cuba for a sucker punch, but it means a cookie everywhere else. And it was just such an eye opening experience. I had such a blast. But I have to say, some of the biggest takeaways for me was that self confidence, that ability to recognize that I could do this and I was capable, because I have those moments now. I love having my husband around, but he's not always around. The army kidnaps him and takes him away. And I have to be able to feel confident in providing for myself and my family when he's not here, taking care of business, getting things done, doctor's appointments, paying bills, the whole nine. Putting a house on the market, that's a whole new skill I had to develop. But I learned those basic skills of like that I can do it, that I am capable on my mission. The other thing was how to mentor. Um, when you're a missionary, you start off as a new missionary having a mentor who is assigned to help you out, and they're called a companion, but basically they're your buddy. It's like the military, you have your battle buddy, and you do everything together and you watch each other's backs and you just kind of make sure that, everyone's everyone's doing what they need to do. You just support each other too. So you're not alone. And it's also for safety reasons and lots of other reasons, but you get a mentor. And eventually at the end later on in your mission you become a mentor. And learning how to mentor, that was really one of the first times I'd ever done it, and it was such a wonderful experience. Um, because I had to learn that as much as I wanted to mold and shape this person and make them so much better uh, than I was at this, that in the end it was their choice. Like I could give them all the tools I wanted, but they had to want it for themselves. And that's how it is to be a parent. And that's just kind of how it is in life in general. Um, you can want all you want for these other people in your life, but if they don't want it for themselves, it ain't going to happen. The next thing was how to present myself professionally. And that has really helped a lot in just different things in different situations. Representing just to represent my husband well in the military, there are certain formal functions where it's good to understand how to, you know, act professionally. Um, and the next one was to keep my commitments. And I remember, so they don't just send you out there all willy nilly by yourself. You have someone to supervise all of these youngins. And that person is a mission president, and him and his wife, they're a couple. And sometimes they have their kids with them, and sometimes they're retired and whatnot. But they kind of become your, adopted mommy and daddy for this time period. And I loved one of the lessons I learned from my mission president was that there's no excuse to be late. And I was like, when he said that at first, I was like, there are good excuses to be late. What if your car breaks down? What if this happens? What if that happens? And he's like, if you truly intend to keep a commitment, if you truly intend to be on time, you will build in contingency plans. You will prepare for all of those things. And yes, on the rare occasion you might be thwarted, but 99.9% of the time, you will not be late and you will keep your commitments. And that is something that has really helped in military life because, yeah, promptness is important. And I have talked about that before. Um, and then another thing I learned was just to be true to myself. And I learned a lot of these skills about self confidence and I can do this and all of these things. And then I went to college and life got crazy and I got married and I got really clingy. And then I became a military spouse and I had to do it all over again. And these skills came back. And I am so grateful because it has made me a better wife. Being able to be self sufficient but still interdependent with my husband has been great. So that's a lot of some things I learned. This is going to be a slightly longer episode, but I just want to share some things that other people, I reached out to some other friends and just people in general who I knew had done this. They had taken these opportunities and what they learned and what they brought back and what's helped them as a missionary from being a missionary and from this experience to being a military spouse. And the first one I want to share is a friend of mine, and her response was communication. It's a lifesaver. Um, and yeah, when you are stuck in these situations with individuals you don't know, um, you have to be able to communicate, and communication is the key. It's so huge. And so and that is totally the same with military life. It's you learning how to communicate is just a huge thing in general. Um, then another friend of mine said that as a missionary, you walk into so many different homes and so many different family situations. You observe a myriad ways of living, a myriad lifestyle choices, and a myriad of family dynamics. Experiencing this caused me to ask myself what I wanted my life to look like after my mission. All of my observations helped me decide for myself what type of relationship I wanted and how I wanted my home to feel. Because of witnessing a lot of admirable situations that I wanted to pattern after, I was as well as sad and discouraging situations that were a caution to me. I have, for the most part, chosen or been deliberate in choosing what I wanted my life to be like. As a military spouse, I live around amazing and a variety of people who come from all over the country and from many various parts of the world. Again, I have witnessed different lifestyles and ways of living and a varying family dynamics. It again causes me to reflect on what I want my life and relationships and family to be like. It causes me to be deliberate in the way I choose to live. And that is a good friend of mine. She um, is in my congregation. And there's been a few others that shared stuff. And I threw this out on a website that a military spouse page that I am on. And these were the responses I got back. Thinking, one person, Beth, says, I think knowing how to function independently was huge. I love having my husband to help with anything, but I have the confidence and know that I can do it on my own if I need to. And there was other people who agreed with that. The next one was Liz. I learned how not to need so much emotional and spiritual support from family, friends, and even spouse. As much as I love it when I need it, I can rely solely on my relationship with my Savior. Similarly to what one of the other contributors said, I feel like I have much more patience and love for my spouse and for those I meet. Also, I feel like I have a better perspective, even though this moment may be hard. I know it doesn't last forever, and I know good things will happen. I have seen the Lord take care of us with the scary parts of PCSing and deployments and anything else the military throws. I feel like that confidence is because of the relationship I forged with she's referring to the relationship she forged with her Savior on her mission. The mission changed my whole relationship with the Lord, and that has made the difference in everything. And then this was one that I really liked too. It has helped me be more flexible and more forgiving. I moved so many times throughout my life, but I know for people who haven't, transfer experiences like peace makes PCSing easier. So transfer is when they move you from one area to another, especially if it's a short notice. Being with someone you don't like 24/7 helps you learn the art of negotiating and keeps you humble. Yeah, sometimes these battle buddies, that's the term I'm using because we're military people and it's a term you'll understand. But basically, your partner on your mission, the person you're rooming with and working with, they're like your battle buddy and you don't pick them. You get assigned them and you don't always know them. So anyway, back to what they said. You learn to serve and look for good in any situation and with anyone you meet. You learn to live with very little monetarily and physically and not being able to see your family of origin as much as expected. My husband and I are an independent unit. The biggest thing is that the foundation I was able to build on my mission has helped me stay firm when surrounded by people who don't share the same values. I have my testimony, not borrowed from my parents. My mission definitely made being a military wife a lot easier than others who don't have that experience. And I've seen that for myself. There are a lot of fantastic military spouses I know who've never had experiences like I did with this kind of gap lag year service mission thing, and still do a wonderful and fabulous job. But for me, like I said, it gave me life skills. It helped me learn how to be interdependent, but not completely dependent, like not always dependent on my spouse. We work together as a team, but we can do it from other sides of the world and still function. And that's not easy. The last one I want to share is from a friend who just sent it to me. Her name is Zoila. And she says that relying on the Lord for revelation and power, like strength, I can definitely say that revelation has been a big one through prayer. I have found the Lord reveals to me the things that will either work out. I've been given strength and also how to pray to have such a close and personal relationship with my Heavenly Father. Sometimes all I have is prayer, and that is more than enough. And so, coming from a religious community, from a religious, perspective, my faith background is that I can talk and have a personal relationship with God, with my Father in heaven. And I can ask for his guidance in making choices and decisions in my life. And I like to joke that my mission prepared me for military life because when you get transferred from one location to another, you don't always get a say in where you're being sent and who you're being sent with. That's kind of like the military because PCSing, you don't always get a choice of where you're going and what unit you're going to be put with. But being able to roll with it is huge. So, that is just something I kind of wanted to talk about and share just kind of that perspective. I didn't realize I had a lag year. It was a year and a half, and it was fantastic. I learned so much. I gained so much. And ironically enough, my mission helped me see that the direction I was going academically was not the direction I wanted to go. And because of my mission, I ended up changing my major, switching to a 4-year university in another state, and ended up getting my degree in family life science. So I'm grateful for all the experiences I had before my mission. I majored in political science and theater with costume design as my emphasis. And then I ended up completely changing. So it helped me find what I wanted to do. and what my passion in life was. So, yep, it's been a slightly longer episode. I want to wrap this episode up with a new thing, though, that I want to do. So, I'm going to share with you something that I like, something in my life that has happened lately that I want because I love and want to share with you. And that is, I've talked about unplugging a lot, and we are working on doing that more, especially on the weekends, but specifically on Sundays, so we can have quality family time. And another thing I've done lately is prepping meals ahead of time. I meal prep and I meal plan, but I've started making Sundays meals on Saturday, and that has freed up more time. And this last Sunday, I had just a wonderful experience. It was my husband's idea. We all laid out on the trampoline and looked up in the sky and at the clouds and like found pictures in the clouds, and it was fantastic. So I would encourage you unplug, spend time with your family. But yeah, that was my lag year, and that is what I wanted to talk about this week. I hope it inspires you or maybe give you some food for thought. Maybe it's something you've never heard of before. So, and thank you to everyone who contributed their experiences. I know I went kind of fast because I was trying to fit a lot of information in, but if you want to know more, please shoot me questions and I can talk more about this if you're interested. That said, I am your host, Sam Wolf, and you've been listening to Life of a Military Wife.